Okay, so good morning, everybody again. My name is Pao. I'm the geotechnical reviewer with SDCI, and I'm here today with my colleague Tim Lu, and I think Catherine Wilson here, and our two inspectors with SDCI to participate this Q&A session to help your question regarding the site inspection and soil erosion issues. And so we so far I think we probably mute everybody just to keep the discussion quiet without extra noise. And but when you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or just type in the Q&A. But I think since we don't have a big group here, maybe you can just unmute yourself or raise your hand, and then we unmute you, and then we can answer your question one by one. And or if we did not see you have any question, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt us. Yeah. And so Tim, sorry, let me find the participant list. Tim, may I know if you want to say a few words before we start answering questions?
You pretty much covered it, pal. Yeah, we can answer questions regarding development, site erosion control, anything that's out there. So feel free.
Can everybody see my screen well regarding that title slide? I cannot see myself very well, so I just want to check with everybody. Tim, can you see it well?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, yeah. So if you have any question, feel free to ask. Today we don't have a presentation. Today is a Q&A session, so it's a bit different than what we have last week. Last week we have a presentation for each topic, and today is just a Q&A, so there's no formal presentation today for the following 2 hours. Yeah, I saw Emma have questions, so Emma, please go ahead.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, if it's all, can I ask a question now about my situation?
Yes, please.
Okay. I have a gentle slope in my backyard, and I recently built a deck in my backyard, and we had a construction permit. And after the deck was completed, the site inspector came and Young Pao, I think is his name, and he said that he couldn't pass me because in another part of my backyard, I have black landscape fabric down to kill the lawn and the and weeds in preparation for basically kind of a garden area. And I've had that fabric down for probably about 6 months, and I plan to put down jute on top of the black fabric, and then topsoil. And so he said that I need to put down compost as the topsoil, and I don't understand why. I mean, it's fine, but I assume it's okay to mix it with other stuff. And then when I plant the ground cover, which I plan to do, because it'll look nice, but obviously it'll also control erosion. How long do I need to wait, for that ground cover to sort of spread? Because you can't just plant it from day one and have it all over. I mean, you can't buy that many plants. So it's like, what do I do? I want to make sure that I do it right, and I'm gonna start all of the planting and so forth in the spring.
Is your site in a easier site or just a regular flat property?
Oh, it has a gentle slope, away from my house. It's not steep,
I see.
but it does have a little slope.
Tim, I know if you have any
Yeah,
comment in this case.
Sure, I can pop in there. I'm not sure of what exact location you were or what the inspector's name was, but typically we require all bare disturbed earth to be covered prior to site final, especially when you start getting into steep slope areas. So that's something that they generally will cover at the first ground. The recommendation for compost is because it absorbs quite a bit of water. It'll prevent underlying soils from getting starting to erode. Good thing about compost is it can be tilled into the regular soil. And it's with the soils we have around here in Western Washington, the Seattle area, compost is always a good thing. So that's probably not speaking for the inspector, but if I was out there doing it, that's probably the reasoning behind that. This time of year, it's tough. We ask that people cover bare soils with compost mulch or bark or something. Compost and mulch typically tend to be the best materials to cover because they do absorb water and they'll prevent that underlying soil from eroding. It's probably where he's coming from on that. I'm not 100% sure because I don't know the specifics of your project, but that's what I've done in other areas, and that applies to areas outside of steep slope as well. This time of year, it's really tough. You can't grow grass, so grass is a suitable ground cover. It's just not going to grow. So what a lot of people are doing is bringing in a load of compost, mixing it in with the soils, or laying it on top and using that as a blanket. If you do have a slope, I like that idea about the what would you say, the jute matting or coconut matting. That's always good for steep slopes, but typically that'll get covered up as well with some compost. So that's probably why. If you want me to follow up, I can, and get with the inspector and have them give you a call.
Oh, well, maybe. I mean, so here's the thing. So, in the spring when it's no longer, raining so hard, I'm going to put down the jute. I'm going to put down the compost, probably about 3 or 4 inches, and then plant ground cover, plants, and then presumably those things will, expand and then cover all of the ground. And I guess I'm wondering, so after I plant, so how far apart should the little plants be, be spaced when I plant them? And then can I call the inspector then to do to give me the approval for the site inspection, or do you have to wait for the plants to have, I don't know, more developed?
Unless it's called out on the approved plan set that the plants must be developed, I don't think that would be a requirement. What I would say is that if you're not in a hurry to site final that permit, you can just hold off on that on the site final until you start getting that project going with the jute matting, the compost, the stabilization, and then just move forward at that point.
Okay.
You can do that. And then in regards to how to plant there, I'm not that plant expert. My expertise tends to stop right when you get to the end of the soil remediation and the compost. I'd really reach out to some landscape folks and find out what it's going to take. Certain plants and ground cover need to be spaced certain feet apart. Depends on their growth pattern and their growth habits. If they grow fast, what are you going to use?
I don't know. I'm going to go to, a nursery and talk to them and see what they recommend and, that sort of thing.
Try to find something that is somewhat native, but low, fast growing, but low maintenance type of deal. So you're not out there having to maintain. I hear exactly. I've got the same situation in my house, and I've been looking for appropriate ground cover for about 10 years now, and I still haven't decided.
Oh, well, I got to decide pretty soon, but okay. This is really good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'd add this: when you do talk to the landscaper, depending on how steep your slope is or where it's at, really kind of try to zero in on what type of plantings are going to give you your best. What are the root habits on those plants? Are they going to really dig in and hold that earth together? And it may be a combination of ground cover and shrubs and different things like that that are really kind of root deep and hold that earth together. So that's an option as well.
Great.
So
Thank you very much.
if you are really in the ECA city-defined steep slope area, I would encourage you to post your question to online Q&A to ask more specifically if that's your case. I'm not sure, but if you have a map steep slope for your lot, I would encourage you to um, post your specific question on in an online Q&A and to talk with one of the geotechnical reviewer and also the revegetation reviewer to see the work happening in the steep slope area. But it seems you already have a permit. I think that should be already taken care. Yeah, but that's
Okay.
just additional
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in a steep slope area. I've never heard anybody say
I see.
that, so maybe I'm not.
I see. Thank you,
Emma,
Emma.
if you look at your approved plan set, there should be a CSC or construction stormwater control sheet. It'll talk about the bare earth, what to do with it, and it may have specifics on planting for your project for that deck. We got to look at your approved plans and just double check on that.
Okay. Great. Thank you guys very much. This is very
Thank you.
helpful.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Emma. So I think we have a next question from Bruce. Bruce, do you want to explain a little bit about your question? Oops. Hi, Bruce.
Does
Hi,
he need
Bruce.
to unmute?
Yeah, it's on mute. I think you are on mute right now, Bruce. Oh, Bruce, I think you are. Yeah, you are not mute. You are on mute right now. Sorry, cannot hear you. Or maybe while we are waiting, Bruce, fixing the audio, we can jump to the next one. Vicky?
Yes,
Yes. Hi, Vicky. Good morning. Oh. Hi, Vicky. I think you can speak now. You are not muted. Oops.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So I've written several questions, Pal, and it's very frustrating to be at the bottom of a steep slope because the city won't enforce any illegal tree trimming or topping, and there's like 5 feet deep of branches on the steepest part of the hillside that actually are the uphill private property of the people up above, and they just keep trimming branches and dropping them, and then it makes it impossible to do any restoration. So the geological records are available, and they show slides and they show this and that and the other thing, and yet the city won't do anything to mitigate the potential for that to happen again. They just wait for it to happen and then say, oh, I guess you're on a steep slope. So it's a little disconcerting because the city continues to issue building permits for development up above. I know that there's over the hill drainage going on. I've had trees just come down of their own accord because ivy has pulled them down, and you know, it falls onto stuff that I've planted that I'm trying to put in, continually putting into place to get some roots on the hillside. And you know, this isn't the only, I'm talking about the west side of West Seattle, but you know, the only green slopes the city has left are steep slopes and very difficult to manage. but if they're not managed, if those trees are not girdled with that ivy, and that extra weight with all of the exposure at the tops of the hills with homes and landscaping, irrigation and all the rest of it, we're just going to see things like happen in Magnolia and happen down here on Beach Drive a few years ago. And the city becomes complicit. So I don't understand why there isn't some help for homeowners and some enforcement for people to restore what they've removed on a steep slope that is considered environmentally critical.
I see, Vicky. Yeah, I think in general, for any new development in the city, there's some very strict developing
I can't
standard.
hear you.
Oh, can you hear me okay right now?
Okay, I hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe the internet is not, reception is not good. So in general, city has very strict ECS developing standard in the steep slope area. So any new development, it should be go through those review standard and should not cause any, are not supposed to cause any damage to the adjacent property. So
Well, we know that's just not true, don't we?
I think
Because
you
a
probably
lot
have
of people don't even get a permit. They just,
right. That's the unfortunate part. Some people they when they do the development, they probably did not get the proper permit, so there was not that what they did probably was not properly reviewed and to comply with the ECA development standard. So that kind of case of if you discover that type of case, you can
I
file
have
the code.
reported this, I've reported so many times to so many departments and have gotten no help.
I see. Because this seems this is a very special case here, I probably won't be
I don't
able
think it
to.
is. I think it relates to every green slope or green space the city has left. There has to be management of every tree if we really want to say we have an urban forest, and if we're really saying that we want to protect our geology and our topography, because right now it's just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, Vicky, I think we probably can talk about your case after can I
I
can
would
give
like
you.
that, but I
Yeah,
really don't think I'm alone here. I think that there are, I mean, all you have to do is look at the topographic maps, and there's buildings above and there's buildings below, and the city just is ignoring everything in between. So,
um,
and then people take it into their own hands and create very dangerous situations like
my understanding is if all of our residents the proposed development is going through the proper review, and we do care about the slope, we care about the geology, we care about the tree. So that's all including in the review that if that's a permit coming through the city. So I think you probably refer to some project that was done without a permit, and then that's a different case. And in that type of case, we rely on residents to file it through the code compliance, and then city will be able to take a further investigation in that type of case. But I know you have a lot of questions, but I will happy to provide you my contact information, and then we
okay,
can
great.
talk offline, not offline, I mean after meeting, because I think we have other participants that would like to ask questions today. So yeah, we can, yeah. But let me remind me before we end the meeting today. Remind me to give you my contact email. Yeah. And okay, so thank you, Vicky. So Bruce, may I know, are you able to fix your the voice and the audio? Are you ready to ask your question?
What was that?
Oh, I was asking to one of the participant, Bruce.
Oh, okay, sorry.
He was asking
I'm gonna
question
turn
earlier.
off my I'm gonna turn off my volume now.
Hi, Bruce. Oh, Bruce cannot hear. Okay. So let me try to read Bruce's question here because I could not fully. Tim, may I have your help to see if you fully get what Bruce tried to ask here?
Yeah, I'm looking for his question right now. Hi, Bruce. I'm not seeing your question typed in here. How are you seeing that?
I saw at Bruce type a question at 10:05 a.m. under the chat. Talking about stormwater code. Prohibited this.
Okay, here we go. So it was a question. It's a copy and paste from the stormwater code about prohibited discharges.
Oh, okay.
Question. He's asking how is the stormwater code enforced, and specifically stormwater code 22.802.020 prohibited discharges. So he wants to know how that's enforced.
Oh, that's a good question.
So I'm thinking, Kyle, that's enforced through
Yeah,
drainage folks.
yeah, it's through our drainage group. So if you have more specific about drainage, and then I think we have a drainage online Q&A. Our drainage reviewer will answer question every day. I'm gonna post this online Q&A link here for everybody, so everybody can use online Q&A platform to ask questions. So now the next question we have,
Hey, Kyle.
Sean, oh, live.
This is Doug from Live Tech. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you? Thank
Yeah,
you.
I have a quick question. So I'm trying to currently prep my site for a DADU in the backyard there, and it looks like we're able to do it. But you know, I'm kind of new at this. What sort of site and soil preparation do I need to do? Any permits do I need to do? Just if you can get me started, that'd be great. We have to do a foundation at some point. Any kind of tips or you know, any kind of information you can give will be very valuable. Thank you.
So your question was, you have a DADU about to start?
Correct.
And you have a issue permit?
We're just in the planning phase right now.
Oh,
So yeah, so I just want to know, since this is a site and soil erosion Q&A, I was wondering what sort of permits do you think I can get started with?
Oh, to get a permit for this DADU?
Correct.
I see. May I know what type of site? Is it a flat site or are you in an ECS site?
It's pretty flat. It's a single family zoning area. So it's pretty clear cut, flat site. Not any trees or anything, just very flat and empty.
And then I think in this type of permit, you just go with the regular construction permit. You probably don't need a special approval because in city, if you have a steep slope area right now, it's prohibited to development. And for you to propose any development in that type of site, you are required to have additional approval before you can submit your construction permit. But if you are working in a flat site, what you need is probably just a regular construction permit, and there's no additional step ahead of that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
One more supplemental question. It's right now, I think if you have a accessory dwelling that's under 750 square feet, you don't have to provide a stormwater permit. Does that mean we can just drain right to the city flood, the flood drains, or can we just run it right to the road, or do we have to connect it to the actual stormwater drain?
I think that would be a very good question to check with our site sewer reviewer. And so if you can use the online Q&A portal, and then when you can ask for, let me share my screen maybe here with everybody.
I could probably respond to that a little bit,
yeah,
maybe
Tim, sorry.
point you in the right direction.
Okay.
In regards to the permit itself, typically you'll apply for a pre-application site visit, and a site inspector will come out and do a quick review of the site, take some pictures, look at the existing drainage out there, where the catch basins are. It is true that under 750 square feet of new impervious that it doesn't get a drainage review. But what does happen is we make that determination where the water goes to once the project gets rolling, or typically at the first ground, and it's up to the developer to figure out where that's going to go. If you're going to use splash blocks, we typically ask that you'd have 25 feet of vegetated flow path so that can go out there. You can't just take the water and like dump it into an alley or out into the curb. That would be curb discharge, and then you're getting into right-of-way permits. What a lot of people do with DADUs is if they have that vegetated flow path, they'll design their downspouts to a point where it hits a splash block and then it flows across the grass. So you're avoiding erosion. You don't want to put that water on somebody else's property like your neighbors. A lot of people are doing dry wells, 4x4 by 5 deep dry well with rock pocket in the catch basin and putting that water in there. So under 750 square feet, when you do your first ground meeting, once your permit's issued, we'll meet, we'll talk about, whoever your district inspector is, talk about the best thing to do. Some people choose to use rain barrels, and that's acceptable as well.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Tim.
You bet.
Thank you, pal.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
You bet.
I'm
Sean,
sorry, I joined late,
yes.
so I don't know the process. Do we just ask questions? Is there a way to submit questions?
Yeah, you can ask questions. Is this Travis? Oh, yeah, Travis, you can ask questions. Yeah, I'm also Tim and I, we are also screening the online Q&A, but now we are both multitask, so our response is probably a bit delayed. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and if I'm cutting ahead of anyone in line, please let me know. So, hi, pal. Nice to see you.
Nice to see
I
you.
haven't met you, Tim. So my question for my scenario, we are getting permits for retaining walls and stairs in our backyard. And as part of that, SDCI has mandated that we remove planters that are kind of concrete triangle planters in the hillside. And I don't understand why. So these are old planter systems that have been on our property prior to our ownership, and they are not hazards. They don't affect the stability of the hillside at all. And they're a beautiful feature of the hillside. And I've looked through the code a million times. I've asked SDCI where in the code it requires removal of fixtures like this in order to get new permits. And I can't find any answer. So my big question is like, why do we have to remove something that was pre-existing that doesn't negatively affect the hillside or the permits that we're trying to get issued?
I couldn't answer. This is Tim. I couldn't answer that question for you. What type of permit are you trying to get issued? Is it a addition, alteration?
It's a replacement of concrete stairs and retaining walls. Yeah.
Do you know who did that review, and then have you reached out to that person directly to get some explanation on what's the reasoning?
Oh, believe me, 100 times, and I never get an answer that's acceptable. I never get a reference to the code on why it's required.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Travis, I think I haven't touched, I think, I know last year, even before last year, I think 2019, I think I know a little bit more about your project because your
Yeah.
project was discussed in the group meeting. But after that, I think I haven't followed up. I haven't heard anything about your project. But recently, I do see you have an email to uh,
Mhm.
the reviewer and my supervisor about your project. So I will follow up with the reviewer and my supervisor again with your project, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to you.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I've put my arguments against that decision in so many emails, and really I'm looking for like I want this to be an objective decision that's being made by SDCI. I don't want this to be a decision that's just subjective for some penalizing reason or punitive reason. And I'm happy to talk to like the legal department or something too, if I can get an answer here on how the requirements are actually aligned with the code and not overreach on requirements. But I'm really getting radio silence.
Hmm. I see. Yeah, I think we we apologize for the delay because these days we have less staff in the geotech group, so everybody is overwhelmed. But this
Oh,
shouldn't
for
be the
sure. Yeah,
this
like
shouldn't be a excuse. Or I will follow up with my group to see if we can get back to
and
you
I
sooner.
will
Yeah.
note that I've talked to pretty much everyone in your department in some extent, and everyone is super nice. I want to make sure that the decision that was made a year ago that I've been fighting a year ago is actually a valid decision, and I still
Mhm.
don't have code references for that.
Yeah, I see. I understand, and then I will contact my supervisor and the
Cool.
group too. Yeah. Thank you
Thanks so
for your
much.
patience.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think we also have question from Rose Palamo. Rose, may I know if you would like to ask your question, elaborate a little bit, or
Hi, pal. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually asked more than one question, and I don't
oh, I'm
jump in
sorry.
front of anybody else. So, just drilling down and looking at the
Yeah, I apologize for
You're
everybody
good,
if
Rose. You can go ahead.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So I guess from what I can remember, my first question was, are there maps that we could look at online to see what the topography is or what the restrictions
Yeah,
are? I don't know.
yes. Let me share my screen with everybody to show, and let me put a link into the chat first, and then I'll show you how to use it. Let me put a link into the chat box right now. So everybody can see in your chat box, and that's the link for CT's GIS. And now let me share my screen to show. Can everybody see my screen yet?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the same link I share with you. You come here, you will come to the City of Seattle SDCS GIS website, and you can key in your address here. Right now, I use SMT as the address. So you give me this address, I click, and it pop me a dot showing that's the location of the address I'm interested in. And then under here, you have several layers you can use. And for example, you have the contour lines. You can show the contour line with the elevations. And also you have other layer, for example, zoning, that type of information. But I think you also have these different ECA layers. And I think you can have, we have a steep slope layer, potential landslide layer, and then wetland, riparian corridor, liquefaction. We have a lot of ECA layers here. And I think most of the one that prohibit you to propose a development is the steep slope, because as you can see, if I turn on steep slope, this is the blue-ish highlight area. That's the area, and you are not allowed to propose development unless you can have a relief from prohibition of development in the steep slope area first. And then, yeah, so that's the map you can use to understand your site a bit more in terms of what kind of
So
yeah.
is that like an additional permit? So if it is in a steep slope area, we have to get some sort of variance or some sort of approval?
No, steep slope. Let me also put another link for you to talk about. Sorry, oops. I have everything ready here, but sorry. This is the link I'm gonna share with everybody. So these tips 3278 talks about relief prohibition from development in the steep slope area, because as I mentioned earlier, right now currently the ECA code CT enforced doesn't allow any new development in the steep slope and buffer. Buffer is 15 feet away from the steep slope itself. And so, but under four conditions that CT can give relief from prohibition of development in the steep slope area. And then, so if you can find your lot and what you propose to do can fit in one of these four category provision, then you can get a relief, and then you can continue on your construction permit application. However, if you are not able to meet this one of these four provision, then you can check if you can meet another relief criteria, which called small project waiver. Although it's called waiver, it's not really waive you from the ECA code. It's just another relief mechanism allow applicant to do a much smaller scale project that may potentially encroach in the steep slope and buffer. So once you exhausted all this relief mechanism, then and that means if you really need to do this development, you will need to go through the land use variance, steep slope variance with SDCI's land use group. Yeah, so that's it. And so there are four provisions that you can use to get relief. One is you have existing development area. That's the same area you can use to encroach in the steep slope. And then the other one is if you have evidence to show that steep slope at this site is created by previous legal grading. For example, when CT developed the right of way, or when the site is developed that caused this steep slope. That's a second one. And third one is if you have a low rise and isolated steep slope that typically is defined as if your height of the steep slope is less than 20 feet in vertical change, and there's no other steep slope in the 30 feet radius, then in that case, it can be considered as the low-rise isolated steep slope, and then that type of steep slope can receive a relief too. And then fourth provision is usually if you have an active landslide happening, and then the homeowner need to go into the landslide area to mitigate that, then that's a provision we allow applicant to use to do the mitigation within the steep slope area. So that's a four typical provision allowed in the ECA code to give relief for the development in the steep slope area. Yeah, so thank you.
Is that all discussed in that tips 327A?
Yeah,
What
tips
are the
327. Yeah,
specifications?
I'm gonna put a link in the chat box. Tips 327A talk about relief. And then if you want to know a little bit more about small project waiver, because sometimes a homeowner doesn't have, their site doesn't qualify one of these four, but they are proposing to have a deck, and deck is very small, like let's say it's only 200 square feet, and then in that case they probably can go with a small project waiver. You still gonna be regulated by ECA code, but it's just another relief mechanism to allow homeowner to propose a small scale project. So for small project waiver, usually your permanent encroachment in the steep slope area must be less than 300 square feet. And then total overall project area, including any temporary construction or construction assets, it must be less than 750. That's the two criteria for the small project waiver. Yeah. And small project waiver is that 300 square feet is it's a lifetime maximum allowance. So for example, you use it, or the previous owner already used it for 1,000 100 square feet, then in the future you only have 200 square feet left for this lot. So it's accumulative from the very beginning when we start, when CTE start enforce the ECA code. Yeah. Oh, sorry, did I put a, okay, I put a 327A link in the chat box. And I think you can also search 327B, that's regarding small project wafer, if you like to know more about that. And also, if you have more specific question, feel free to use that online Q&A platform. It's very useful because all of the SDCI staff on different disciplinary, they are monitor the Q&A every day, and then we try to get back to you as soon as we can. Yeah, Tim, I know if you have extra to add. Sorry.
So you pretty much covered that, Pal. We're good on that.
Yeah, thank you.
So related question, if I have a house that's on an ECA in that buffer zone, and there's an existing house that was built back in 1906 or 1909, and I want to fix the foundation, would that be allowed? Or do I just, I mean, what do I do?
Yeah, you will be allowed. You just need to go through, you will get a relief first. And it looks like if you are using the existing footprint of the lawfully constructed building, then you will get a relief under the provision that I just introduced you. So you will get a relief first, and once you have approved relief, you can continue your construction permit application.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I saw just Bruce just posed a question. I live in a building below steep slope, greenbelt area, and following a resin slide, the runoff from the hillside has a very heavy sediment load, which then enters and log our drainage system. How do we pursue getting the runoff cleaned up by the property owner to meet stormwater code? So Bruce, this landslide happening is not in your property, is from the property from your neighbors?
Yeah, Pal, this is Tim. So what it looks like, just looking into his question a little bit more. He's up in a greenbelt area, has somebody up above him. That property, erosion coming down and getting in. It appears into his private system. Bruce, is that correct? And then you're wanting to know how to get the property owner up above to be responsible to clean that out of your system. Is that correct? So I'm not 100% sure, Pal, but I think that gets that goes through either a code enforcement or SPU's drainage people. If there's a public main or a system involved out there that sediment's getting into, you know, SPU would be the ones to get in touch with, or our code enforcement.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think Bruce, you probably can find a code. Let me search right now. I think we have a code compliance contact information for you to use. Let me. Oops.
I just shared the link for the tip with the code violation links.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry if I miss any your question in the chat. Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask question. Now,
So, who are we next on, Pal? Sean?
Yeah.
Sean was asking about an exemption, right? I just provide Sean my email address because I think I may need to have his permit number, and so I can look into what happened, why it got stuck in the permit system.
Yeah. We can. That's part one
Oh, that's part one. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's
I
fine. That's
missed.
fine. That's fine. And
Yeah.
I'm glad. I will follow up for sure and get you the number for that.
Uh-huh.
So what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to stay away from anything close to the ECA, which is why we asked for the exemption. But our future plans, and if you want to share your screen and go to the lot, and we can see kind of the situation a little bit more, it might help.
You want me to use the GIS system?
Yeah, that would be really
Oh,
cool.
okay. I can do that if you don't mind.
I do not mind.
Let me share my screen again. Share my screen. Share. This is a GIS, so I may need to type in your address, but
Yep,
your
I
address
put it
gonna
in the
be.
chat.
Oh, okay. Oops.
That is fine with
I
me.
couldn't find chat. Let me. So chat is here.
Oh, I can also just say it to you so you can type it.
Oh no, it's okay. I think I got it.
Okay, good.
My mouse is not working.
It's fine.
I'll just type.
There it is, the top one. So we have a 40% steep slope near us.
I see.
We're in the slide area, but you can see our property line is well, it cuts slightly through the blue at the bottom there. So just very slightly, and I assume that's the kind of the buffer zone area.
Sean, I think
Yeah.
I got your. I processed your exemption yesterday evening.
That's really funny.
That's
Okay.
why I feel this side looks familiar to me.
Okay, cool.
I won't be able to give this project exemption because you do have a ECA2 area map, but I think I give relief or allow you to propose your deck here and also your interior remodeling, I think. So,
Okay.
but your next step is just continue your construction permit applications.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So the follow-up question is, we would like to do work in the backyard to step it or do some sort of retaining wall or terraces, right?
Right.
And I wonder if those would fit into any of the we want to do the work that would remediate the steep slope to help it to improve that area. And I just I don't know what's possible. So I was just kind of curious in general what kinds of things we might be able to do in this case.
I remember you proposed to do the work here.
Yeah, currently.
Just a deck, right? Not a retaining wall.
Yes, correct.
I see.
But yeah, I'm saying for the future,
for
the
future.
next steps we would like to do is to do some additional retaining walls back there, or other work that might raise the soil level or things like that.
Oh, you
And I was
just want to have
Yeah.
a level ground instead of right now you have some slope.
Yeah,
I see.
exactly.
For your you can propose to have a retaining wall to have a level ground, like if you can like you are doing right now, you just need to get a relief to encroaching because I assume your
Okay.
retaining wall will be close to your property line.
Right.
So so you are encroaching the buffer from this
Right.
slope here. So
Yeah.
I think you will be able to just like if you are get relief right now, if I remember I approve the relief,
Yeah.
you will have approved a relief in the future for the retaining wall. But
Okay.
like your deck and your retaining wall, future retaining wall, we will require you to hire your own geotechnical
Okay.
engineer to
Yeah.
provide any recommendation about the design. So
Got it.
you will
Okay.
for your deck, I think I also request a geotech report for your construction permit, if I remember correctly, because you are in the ECA2 area, so that's a geotech report is required to
Okay.
for
Great.
the engineer you hire to provide professional evaluation based on the site condition you have,
Great.
because although we all know it's a regional site geology, but from
Yeah.
lot to lot, you probably encounter more site-specific soil condition. So
Right.
that need to be evaluated
Evaluated.
by the
Great.
engineer that you hire. So
Okay.
yeah, but it can be done. You just need to, with the input from your engineer and also with some proper permitting procedure that SD set in force. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
So
it.
if you don't get a permit online, please feel free to send me the email. I think I processed yesterday. And
Okay.
I think the status show waiting for payment. So
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Do we have more questions?
Just a shout out. I've done so much work at our house over the last couple of years, and before COVID, went into the office a couple of times and met with Pao. And Pao, you are awesome. Really appreciate how much thought you put into your answers and your review of everything. And it's been so helpful along the way.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah.
Hey, Pal.
Yes.
So sorry. Yeah, great work. I really like this presentation. So just looking at the project that you were just looking at, there's no colors on that property. I mean, I see. You said it was ECA2. Was it just because it was close to a slope or something, or?
Yeah, ECA2. Let me explain ECA2 a little bit. ECA2 is the ECA layer we call potential landslide due to geological condition. So it's more regional landslide. Usually it's more. Sometimes we, based on the geology, for example, we may have those clay over the glacial till, and so that type of geology will cause that, because for the glacial material, it doesn't allow water go through very much. So it usually will create a layer of water in that interface, and then mobilize allow the soil to mobilize through the interface more easily. So that's type of geology, and that we classify it as potential landslide area, but it's due to the geological condition. So for this type of layer, it doesn't really, the ECA code doesn't prohibit you to propose any development. It just require you to, when you propose the development, you are required to have your engineering input to evaluate if you will be impacted by this potential landslide, or what you to do will cause impact to this potential landslide. So that's just yeah.
Gotcha.
So the only thing will prohibit you for development is that steep slope area, that blue highlight area. That's the area you are not supposed to propose development unless you can receive approval relief per ECA code. Then you can propose development.
Gotcha. So for a layman, when we looked at the GIS map, we clicked on the ECS2 layer, but it doesn't show any colors on that property. So it's just, you took a look at it and then you know that area is ECS2. Oh, the stripes.
It's the stripes.
Oh.
There's a stripe overlay that's kind of vertical. That
I see that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one.
It's a stripe. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry, I did not.
Yeah, it's so big you can't tell is the thing. If you zoom out really far, then you'll be able to see it turn on and off.
Okay. Yeah,
I forgot to explain more, because I see it every day. That's why it's in my mind. It's a very visible color.
It was like a loading.
But yeah, sorry, I should explain a bit more on that layer. But thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
How did we get to Terry Wyatt?
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, not yet. Terry, sorry if we miss your question.
Hi, no, I don't have any questions. We're just attending these seminars in anticipation of buying property in a few years. So we're just trying to educate ourselves.
I see. Oh, Rose has another follow-up question. Can a driveway be put in ECA buffer area? Is a waiver required for a driveway? Also, do we have to hire a geotech, a structural engineer to assess beforehand? So for any development that in the ECA steep slope and buffer area will require a permit, and also it will require you to apply for a relief first before you can propose this driveway. So I think you can start the relief application like following the 327A, the information there. And then usually in that decision, later you're going to receive, usually, for example, the case we see, the Sean just asked, in the decision later I prepared yesterday, I probably say, okay, I understand you plan to do this work. And then per ECA code and per site condition you have, we allow this, we approve this relief, but we're gonna ask for ECA geotechnical review for your construction permit application. And also sometimes in the following sentence, we will say, in this development, we will require a geotech report from the engineer you hire, and also maybe a topography survey for your site. So so for Rose's question, I think maybe the first step you can propose what you plan to do in to apply for an ECA relief application, and then from there we can make the decision for you, and then you will know if you need to hire a geotech engineer or a structural engineer to help you with the construction permit application.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and if you have more specific, like in terms, I'm gonna if you have more specific in terms of what's the step you can do in a permit system, you can post your question through the online Q&A portal, and our permit specialist staff there, they know much more about the step-by-step procedure in the permit system. They probably can also help you.
Okay, yeah, I did ask these kind of questions and I
okay.
haven't received any replies yet.
Oh, I see.
The last session. So I'm just, yeah, okay, so I'll just hold on.
So Rosie, if you want, you can send me an email. My email address is pao.huang at I'm putting in the chat box, and I can, yeah, Seattle.gov, and I can check your case and then follow up with you.
Okay, thank you. What's the time frame? I mean, once we do, because listening to previous conversations, it looks like there's a relatively long. I mean, how many months are we waiting?
Yeah, for the relief application right now, when you apply, system will probably tell you 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks is from, I think Tim probably can elaborate more about, before you apply relief, you have a pre-application site visit need to be done. That's for our inspector to come to your site to take picture and then write you a preliminary PSV report. And then once you have that, you can apply this relief. And when you apply relief in the system usually tell you 2 weeks. But right now, with the work volume we have, a more realistic timing is about 3 to 4 weeks in this range. And that's just for your relief application. Once your relief application is approved, you will continue on your construction permit application, and then that's that construction permit review time will be a bit longer than your relief application, because if the relief application, the decision letter tell you that the ECA geotech review is required, that means your proposed construction permit will be a full plan review permit, which means it's not those STFI permit, which usually STFI permit you can get much faster through the counter in the old day. But if it's a full plan review permit, then you will go through the review through the engineering service department division of SDCI, and then it's gonna be much longer. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Thanks for the heads up.
Thank you. Sean, you have a follow-up question? Oh. Oh, Sean, yeah, I think somehow yesterday when I complete my review for your project, um, the status changed to waiting for payment, but normally I remember system will send you an email
Yeah.
saying that waiting for payment, but somehow yesterday for your project it doesn't say waiting for payment, but the status I see from my end it says waiting for payment.
Same. Yeah. So I just wanted to provide feedback. I'm sure this is just a bug with the system. But you know, if you have some place to send that will listen and maybe prioritize and fix them. I didn't see anything in the system that said, because I assumed there was a payment before you should review it. You
Right.
were supposed to review it. I
Yeah.
never got that email, so I just eventually found the button that said make payment.
Oh.
And that's when I pressed it. The status was in review. It wasn't waiting for payment at that point either. So there was no indication to me. And then finally, a couple of days ago, I actually pressed the button to do that and crossed my fingers and hoped that that meant we would move forward. But
I see. I will
yeah,
report this issue.
good.
I will find a proper channel to report this issue to fix it as soon as. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
confusing, I think, in this case.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I mean, I work in software. I understand. Yeah, so there's that. And then when you went in and fixed, or you reviewed it, and now it's waiting for payment again. I didn't receive an email for that either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you apply, so just also this for everybody. So when you apply for relief, the system will automatically charge you $115. That's a minimum charge ahead of time. And then that usually is the half hour time of the reviewer's review. And then nowadays, all of the relief application require before it just required geotech review, and now it require geotech review and also the land use review for revegetation. So now
Hmm.
you have a two review, and so that $115 won't cover the
All
minimum
the way.
review
Yeah.
fee for both
Hmm.
geotech and revegetation. So that's why oftentimes these days when we complete our review, although I use my minimum charge and then the other reviewer also use her minimum charge, but you will always exceed that $115 dollars that applicant pay at front. So
Right.
that's why you always become waiting for payment. And I did notice like in your case it did not send out, but some case
No.
the system sent out the email. So I think
Okay.
this is a bug. I think SDCA need to fix, and I will find a proper channel to report this feedback to
Awesome. Thank
everybody.
you so much,
Yeah,
pal. Yeah,
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. May I have, do we have more questions? Oh, could you post a website for the recording? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rose. That's a very good question. I'm supposed to post the website for everybody because today we are recording. So in the future, once today we present is done, SDC will post all of the recording to the website, and so everybody can review it again. Let me go post the website. It's here. So the website is here. It's a phone home fair website on the SDCI, and all of the recording, not just this session, all of the session will be available on the website. Oh, you haven't seen the recording yet? I don't know if that will be after today's. Then the department will post all of them at once, or that's a part I'm not 100% sure. I only know that all of the recording will be posted on the link I just share with everybody.
We have another one to
Oh,
list as call-in user.
I see. Yeah, if you have question, feel free to unmute yourself and then ask question, and team and I will try our best.
It looks like we got a follow-up from Rose on a topography survey.
Oh, I remember the ECA topography survey code required a topography survey 25 feet beyond the property line. And I know sometimes uh, the applicant probably doesn't have permission from neighbors, so the surveyor will need to use their best technique to do the most appropriate estimate for the contour, the contour line beyond the property line.
So if we were to apply for a permit or for a relief application,
Uh-huh.
would you require that we do would it be smart to have a topography survey within 25 feet then of the property lines? Or, I mean, because I know that we have ECA, I don't know, buffer areas on this lot.
Rose, would you please say it again? I did not hear clearly. Sorry about that. Would you mind repeat the question again?
Yeah, if we want to, I only want to hire a surveyor once
Right.
just because of cost. And what do I ask for? Do I ask for a survey that's 25 feet within the property lot lines?
If you hire a licensed surveyor in Washington State and they are familiar, when you talk to them, if they are familiar with uh, ECA topography survey, they if they are familiar with working in the city of Seattle, they know what to do. The contour line must be 2 feet or less. So it cannot be those boundary survey, the contour line is 10 feet or 5 feet. It must be minimum 2 feet. And sometimes I see applicant in order to more refine the area of the steep slope, because the contour line is going to be used to delineate where the steep slope is. So sometimes applicant will choose 1 foot contour line, so that way it can more well define the the top or bottom of the steep slope. Yeah, but the minimum interval is 2 feet, and then they have to go beyond the property line. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's perfect. Thank you.
No problem, Rose. Rose, if you have more site-specific question, feel free to send me an email and with the address, and I'll be happy to take a look to see if you will need to have a topography survey or not. Because I know sometimes some project doesn't need it, and I know it's a cost to the homeowner. So if we can avoid that, we can try to avoid that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have an architect telling me I need to get multiple things done, and I'm just doing the sanity check on my side.
Okay, I see. So you do have a professional team is helping you. That's great. Then I think they can help you much better.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Hi, Pal and Tim. This is Rose again. If nobody else is going to ask questions, is it okay if I just keep talking? Because
Yes, please.
I don't want to take anybody else's time. So if anybody
Yeah.
that's on has to ask questions, please interrupt me. But this is just a great opportunity to be able to talk to you guys.
Yeah, feel free.
I don't quite understand. When do I do know that I need a topography survey. When do I need a geotech?
Usually it will, let me start from beginning. So usually for a development in the ECS site, um, topography survey and geotech report are typical submittal requirements for your construction permit application. So if you are not asking for a waiver to waive one of these two or both of them, you are by standard, when you submit your construction permit, you always provide these two documents. So in your relief application decision, reviewer from the geotech group, when we evaluate your site condition and when we are able to approve the relief for your project, usually we will assess if your project will require a topography survey or a geotech report for your construction permit application. And sometimes we are able to waive one of them or both of them. But if we don't say anything, that means those two are required.
Okay.
Yeah. So are you just proposing a driveway in a steep slope area?
No, actually, that's just one portion of it. And again, if anybody else that's online has another question, please stop me. But we have a house that was built in 1909, a very long time ago. And at the time when we bought it, we didn't know that there are these ECA lines that were on. I don't know if they were there when the house was built or must not have been, but they're there now. And so a portion of the house falls within the ECA buffer lines, and we want to either tear it down and build new, or we want to build an extension, or an extension or an addition to the existing house. And we also want to fix the existing house if we want to build this addition. And we're just trying to understand what all is required, because ideally we would just like to tear it down and build new. But I think what I'm learning from you is that there's nothing that can be done within the ECA borders or buffer lines, so that we would have to build outside of those areas. And this is also for a reverse lot. What is that called?
Reverse lot.
It's a reverse corner lot. So evidently that causes some complications as well. So I don't know what that does to the application. I'm afraid that we're going to hire people and we're going to have to do things more than once. And I only want to have to hire them to do, hopefully, stuff that doesn't have to be redone if you guys find that there's a problem. Right? Does that make sense?
I see. No, I understand.
I don't want to go do the back and forth and have to pay each time we have to go back and forth. I would prefer to just hire a surveyor or a geotech just once to make you guys happy, basically.
I see. Yeah, I think in your case, survey will be, seems you're gonna, let me say, sorry, because you have an existing building that partially encroaching the steep slope buffer. So in that case, we do need a survey to document the size of the existing building. So when you propose to rebuild, we can make sure you are using the same footprint, because I assume that's one of the provision you can get, unless you are able to demonstrate that your steep slope area is created by previous legal grading, or is those so-called low-rise and isolated steep slope. And usually for you to prove it's a isolated low-rise steep slope, it's also required a survey to prove that too. So I think survey is very likely required. And also for you to propose to fix the foundation of the existing building or rebuild the portion or propose addition of the building, it will include a lot of ground disturbance into the steep slope area. So in that case, I think a geotech report will be likely be required too. So I think for your project, I think this document, these two documents is likely to be required for your construction permit application. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Pao.
Yes. Oh, Tim.
Yeah, no, this is
Oh, sorry.
Doug.
Sorry.
Yeah, so what is the difference between these geotechnical reports and civil reports, civil engineering reports? I'm understanding civil engineering is like stormwater related or something like that. Is there a
Yeah.
difference?
Usually, when I receive a geotech report, uh, sorry, let me take it back. Sometimes the project doesn't have a geotech report, but they have sort of some type of report from civil engineer, and usually that's talking about drainage and talking about infiltration. And but for so project require geotech report. Sometimes geotech report will also cover that drainage portion in infiltration too. So, but the soil report will focus more on the soil geology and if it's a landslide issue or liquefaction type of a geotechnical related topic they will address those area in the report, like a foundation. And if you need to have a deep excavation, they will propose recommend what type of shoring system you should have, or if you have foundation issue. Sorry, in the geotech report they will talk about what's the most appropriate way for you to fix the foundation issue.
Okay, so a civil report is more soil based. Is that what I'm
So
hearing?
civil report is more like a talk about drainage.
Oh, that talks about drainage. Okay.
Yeah, but
And the
geotech
geotech is more soil,
is more soil. Yeah,
soil conditions maybe.
yeah.
And if you're
Usually
going to
when
do an excavation.
yeah, if you have excavation, you have foundation issue, and then if you are happen to in liquefiable site, pit settlement area site, or a landslide area site. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're doing like a pre-application for a construction project, right? If you're saying that topography surveys and geotech reports are kind of by standard, you need to have these. So should we wait for the pre-application to be processed before we start paying for geotech reports and topography surveys? Because one of those could be waived, right? Is that a recommendation from you, or should we just go right ahead and just get that geotech report completed and everything?
Tim, do you want to comment on PSV report?
When we do the PASV reports, we go out and we pull our information off of GeoCortex, our GIS system, and then the ECA pre-application site visit report will list what the ECAs are. So we go out there and look at where that construction is going to take place, and if it's in the buffer or close, or outside of that ECA. Typically, we'll check these boxes on this report, take the pictures, and we don't really get into at the field level. We look at the project overall, but we don't get into the specifics. And so typically, you'll get a PASB completed, and you'll get a PAR back that says geotech report required, and all these different things. And then we leave it up to the applicant to say, okay, I think that I meet this exemption for relief or one of those other exemptions, and then
Gotcha.
They'll move forward. So that's how we process it on the field visit report. We're out there just taking those pictures, documenting them, uploading them, putting the basic information in our observations so that other departments can look at it and have that information handy.
Cool. So that's great information. What does the PSB stand for? What's that acronym?
A pre-application site visit, and then out of that you get produced what they call PAR, pre-application report. That's correct, Pao?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
once you have that report from our inspector, and then you can continue your relief application. And I think following what you asked, I think if the schedule is not a real concern to the project, I think it won't hurt to wait until you have the relief decision that SDCI make, because in that decision later you will be more how to say that you'll be much clearer that if you definitely need a geotech report or topography survey, because we will call it out in the decision later. But that means if you don't have a concern or constraint in terms of construction schedule, because
Gotcha.
at that time, if you are asked to have a geotech report and then you don't have one, and then you have to find a geotech company to write you a report, and usually
Right.
they will also do some soil boring, and then that's they have to wait for boring done, and then once boring is done, they have to write a report for you. So that's some extra times you may need to consider in your application. But if you like to discuss the project with the geotech reviewer ahead of time to see what's the chance to have a geotech report or topography survey, you can post your question through the online Q&A and then ask for ECA code. And then you can ask more specific about, this is my address and I plan to do this. What's the chance I will be need a geotech report or will be needed or not? Then you can ask for that. But of course, the answer there is not the final decision. It just reviewer at that time cannot really help answer you because we don't have a very good information yet. So it's just
Right.
more like a check, but the final decision will come out in that the relief application decision later. And sometimes when our inspector
Right.
team write a the pre-application report, sometimes they already check with the geotech group already to see if this scope of work and this site really need a topo survey or not. So sometimes we will already waive those requirements in the PAR report. Then so what you see in the PAR report is also much more accurate than what you ask for in the online Q&A. But you are always welcome to check with the on-call geotechnical engineers through the online Q&A for more site-specific question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
and Kyle, I'd like to add to that is that when we do the PAR, because we're the people that are out there documenting the conditions and taking the photographs, on that PAR report, it lists the site inspector's name and contact information. I'll say for any questions with regards to this report, contact the site inspector. And oftentimes what we'll end up doing is getting you in touch with the on-call geotech or geotechnical review group because they have the specifics about that. So that's just something to keep in mind when you call the site inspector on that PAR and you don't get an answer and we say, well, we're going to have to bounce you. It's just kind of one of those things where we'll get you in touch with the geotech and or somebody else within that group and they can be a little more specific about what's going on out there.
Gotcha.
You bet.
Thanks so much, Tim. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Good questions.
Hey, Pao.
Yes.
Since we have you here,
Yeah, please. Oh, sorry, I lost you for a few
technical
seconds. Did
coaching.
you say anything?
Yeah, can you hear me now, Pao?
Yeah, I can
Hello?
hear you well now. Yes.
Perfect. So I saw online that we can do a paid coaching appointment.
Sorry, I lost you again.
Should I? Maybe that's easier.
Sorry, I lost your question again. I'm sorry, the internet got interrupted. Would you mind repeat the question again?
Yes.
Yes, I. Oh, I see. Yeah, the paid coaching. I think that actually we also have a free coaching, which typically that's when before the pandemic when counter was open that people can come into the counter at 20th floor to ask question, and we do have that still have that free geotech coaching. It just we need to go through the online Q&A form to post a question and then make appointment, because for me, if I'm on call that day, if some question that applicant want me to call them back, I usually set up a meeting with them. So I provide my the free geotechnical coaching to them. But if you want to really set up the paid coaching, I think I think we have to contact the SDCI. I think the phone number is that. Let me. I apologize. I forgot to prepare it first. It will be 206-684-8850. That's the phone number for you to schedule make an appointment for the pay coaching, geotech coaching. Yeah. Let me type again here. It's 206-684-8850. This is a phone line for you to call, and it's probably gonna be a voicemail, but I think you will leave the information, then the SDCI staff monitor the phone line there will set up the pay coaching for you. But if you like to have some free coaching, feel free to ask online, and then on-call geotechnical engineer will call you back. Yeah. And oh, do I recommend to do this before PASB? I think a lot of time applicant will come to ask a question before the PSV. So, but I think there's no, to me, I think there's no restriction about which one should be done first, and I think it can be done parallelly too. So, Tim, may I know if you have any comment in terms of that? Yeah, the pay coaching is more it's 1 hour coaching, and and for the free coaching usually we only are limited to 15 minutes, so that's the difference. But of course sometimes we go a little bit beyond that 15 minutes, that is also okay. But usually for pay coaching it's more like for a much bigger large scale project that we meet with the construction team, or at least the owner, architect, and geotech engineer, that type of setting. But for a regular single family residence project, I think usually we are able to answer most of the questions through the free geotechnical coaching. But you just need to go online and then post your question and request the on-call geotechnical engineer to call you back to provide that coaching. Yeah. hopefully my answer is good for you. Thank you. You're welcome. So Rose, your question is you like to build an addition to the existing house, but the portion of addition will be outside the buffer. Is that your question?
Yeah, what I'm wondering is, again, this is on this older house. If we want to build an addition, but stay outside of the existing ECA buffer lines, because only the other portion of the house does fall within the buffer lines. But where we want to build the addition, if it's as long as it's outside of the ECA buffer lines, do we still have to, or do we have to upgrade the foundation? Because I'm worried about the foundation, to be honest with you.
So this new addition will be on a new footprint. It's not in the same. It's not because I know sometimes people when people do addition, that's a second story or third story addition. This addition we are talking about here is not that type of case. It's a new footprint of the.
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, in that case, I think since you're not touching the original building, so if this new addition is outside, I think SDCI won't require you to upgrade the foundation. But oftentimes, homeowners see they have a foundation issue for the existing house. So when they do their addition, they are also thinking repair, improve their existing house foundation too. So they are doing it at the same time. That's what I typically see. But they are not related. It's not because they're doing this addition, they are forced to repair the foundation there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if your new addition is on top of an existing house, then in that case you do have additional load on the on the old foundation. In that case, we will require your engineer to evaluate if the existing foundation is adequate to hold this additional load. If not, then you will be required to upgrade the existing foundation system. That's a different scenario. Maybe not your case here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. But if we want to tear down and build, we still have to stay out of the ECA lines completely, correct? I just want to make sure I understood that.
Tear down the existing house.
Yeah, if we want
Oh.
to tear it down all completely because it's an older house and we just want to build a new one, we use the
No,
same footprint, or because
yeah,
it's
you can before you tear it down, just probably document it because that's the same area you are able to use because sometimes we saw applicant tear down the house many years and now after several years they want to rebuild the area. They lost that existing footprint to be able to use. So yeah, so if you have an existing house that potentially encroaching the buffer, you are entitled to use the same footprint to rebuild the house. Yeah, like they are allowed to encroach. That is allowed to encroach in the buffer. Yeah.
Oh, so we could completely tear down the existing house, even though a portion of it is in the ECA buffer, and build on that same footprint, build a new house?
Yes, because that's the if your house was lawfully constructed before, and then that's the area you are allowed to encroach in the buffer. That's the if you check 327A, the first relief provision is if you are using the existing footprint of the lawfully construction area, that's one of the very first relief provision that ECA code can apply to give applicant a relief.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so you are entitled to use the same footprint of your existing house. You are not forced to move outward. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
But like you mentioned, because your old house your existing house has some foundation issue, so maybe that's some soil concern there. So when you tear down the old house, gonna build a new one, you will be required to have a geotechnical engineer to provide you some subsurface soil study and then write you recommendation about to see if what kind of problem they see and what kind of foundation will be needed in order to meet so-called complete stabilization. That's the spirit for the development in the ECA steep slope area. We ask of the new development to meet complete stabilization, which means this development cannot impact the steep slope and vice versa. The steep slope cannot impact the development. So, for example, some cases, the slope is not very stable. So for you to propose, although you are using the existing footprint of the old house, but for the new house, you probably will be required to, for example, I'm just making it up, for example, put everything on pile foundation. So you will not impact the steep slope, and also when landslide happen, if happen, it will not impact your house, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you can use the existing footprint, but you will need to have a geotechnical engineer to provide you recommendation with the site-specific soil condition and the geology.
Does the geotech engineer also assess the foundation
Yes,
or just the soil?
yeah, foundation is their expertise, their specialty area. So
Okay.
geotech engineers study soil, so they know what type of soil you have. Is it stiff? Is it strong? Or is it weak? And then based on the soil condition and based on what you propose to do, is a 1-story, 3-story, they can, based on what you propose to do, and then write you a recommendation about what is the appropriate foundation type. Yeah, or if you plan to use existing foundation, they can assess if the existing foundation is adequate or not, because sometimes the existing foundation cannot hold the new load anymore. So then you have to either build a new foundation or upgrade the foundation system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Good question.
Quick question.
Yes. Yes.
I'm a late arrival to this chat. I had
Thank you. Welcome.
greatly snared in another chat in another room.
I see.
And I don't know, so I'm asking the answer to this question. Do you deal only with erosion related to a particular building? And the reason I'm asking is because I have erosion going on left over from some destruction that happened from some construction. The erosion in question is in a corner of my property that is sort of like an abated alley. It really is not exactly that, but I'll call it that. It's kind of like a dead end of an alley with a big fat drop below it. And it had a retaining wall on it. Now it does not, because the construction that was done to the south of me basically sliced through half of it. So it's outside. It's not on a construction site per se. The construction site itself destroyed it, or actually not destroyed, damaged it. So my question is, does your department or whoever you represent deal anything with when this happens? Some construction damages some protection from erosion that is outside of the construction site.
Hi, pal. I could probably answer that question for at least a point in the
Thank
right
you.
direction. The
Thank you.
answer, in short, is yes. We will look at it. If the construction permit is still open, we could look at it and take a look at the approved plans and see if they had a plan to do something to reconstruct that small retaining wall, or what the grades cuts were going to be, and talk to the contractor. If it's a project that's quite a bit older, it's been finalized and nothing's happened out there yet, the erosion still exists. Code enforcement could look at it, and they may have some means or some methods to be able to contact the property owner to get them to take care of that issue out there. It just really depends on what that is. But you can call that in or go online and put in a request to the code enforcement folks, and then they'll sort it out and get it to where it needs to go, and somebody will take a look at it.
Okay, so code enforcement for any particular thing, or just called code enforcement?
Pal, do you have a link for code enforcement on there? Or?
Yeah, I'm let me find a link right now. I'm gonna post into the chat. I think this is I just put into the chat. That's a link for our residents to make a property or building complaint.
Okay.
And then once you have that filed, our code compliance specialist gonna do the investigation with our inspectors, and then they will take care from there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You bet.
Oh, may I confirm if you received the link for the making a
I
complaint?
I have copied it from the chat. Yes,
Oh,
thank
okay.
you.
I just want to make sure that you got the link.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Pao.
Yes.
Yeah, Pao. This is Jatinder Kokar. Is it not fair to say that any impacts caused by any construction activity permitted through a permit, through our department, like we do have a, like stake in making sure that all the impacts which are result of that construction caused to any neighboring property is definitely a reason for getting code compliance initiated regardless. Is that a true statement?
Yeah. Sorry, Janita, I did not. The internet got interrupted. I did not fully
Oh,
get.
okay. So let me repeat it. I think any changes or impacts caused by a permitted construction activity is definitely a reason to get things checked out and investigated by our code compliance. I think that's one of our probably mandates that we have to follow through. Is that a
Right.
correct statement?
Correct. I think when of the issue permit, I think during the review we in the intent of the review is to make sure this adjacent party is protected. There's no impact can cause to the adjacent party by this development. And I know sometimes construction team that make changes and then which was not approved in the plan, and then cause the impact to adjacent property. And then that's something as DCI will need to investigate and enforce them to make the to do the right thing. Yeah.
I would like to take hope from what you just said, but my experience has been quite the contrary.
I see.
The project to the south of me,
Uh-huh.
which was 6 townhouses or something like that, took over 6 years to complete. They made many errors. It's really been terrible
I see.
in short. But one of the things that they did was that at this, it will be my southwest corner and just north of them, that's where they cut through the retaining wall that was there, which was holding back about more than 4-foot drop. It's basically the dead end of an alley, which is not an alley because it's too narrow to be an alley, and there's whole other stories about that. But in any case, there's an erosion and landslide-y, mini landslide question right there. And there was nothing said to these people over the 6 years that it took them to finish this project. When finally, at the very end of the struggle, the building inspector said something to the people that were managing, wrapping up the project. They came out, did a little tiny bit of something, left it unfinished, and said, we're no longer responsible for this because we're out of this now. The owner, the remaining owner, is sort of uncontactable by me anyway. So there's nothing that happened in terms of compliance that made them repair what they had damaged. Nothing. And so, and now what's going to happen is that there's even new construction to the east of that project, and that is southeast of me. You have allowed one of your departments has allowed the construction of a almost 4-story tall accessory dwelling unit, and I have a feeling that they intend to pave the alley, which will cause drainage through my property and out that corner that is unretained. And as far as I know, nobody's attending to that subject. And if to make it clear, it will be a drainage issue, because if they pave the alley, all the water will run down slope through my property and out that corner that is not retained. I spoke to an SDOT person, which I guess is who is in charge of alleys. I never heard from them again. So the confidence level is low. I like those words that the gentleman said, but in practice, I haven't seen them acted on.
Okay. I really appreciate your very honest feedback, ma'am. I do believe that the moral and professional value that a local government brings to its community is very important, and it should be transparent, it should be open, and it should be based upon the feedback. A lot of time there are, responsibility or authority having jurisdiction. If it's an alley or right-of-way area or a roadway, then definitely we have to look towards SDOT. But if it is a private property area, we definitely have a venue within our department, which is code compliance. And I think there are 1 or 2 supervisors or maybe manager and maybe 3 or 4 people within that code compliance unit. And we could be as good as if somebody, lodges a written, information or an email to that group. And I think we have a moral and professional responsibility to look into it and at least, clear out. In many situations, we have to peel the onion a little bit and get deeper into, whose responsibility it is. And the sooner we get that information, more effective we can be. But I apologize if you have that kind of, impression about us. But at the same time, it does not negate our responsibility to stay fair, open, transparent, and be as effective and be advocate of our community members. And I think that's what I believe in. And we are here to help. I strongly encourage you to, put in a, email to that group. And I hope Pao or Timothy have given you an email contact in the chat box. And, we can make sure that we follow through it with it and do the best we can based on the facts of the situation. I think at least that much I can assertively tell you. And your feedback is very important, and we do not ignore it. We act on it. And at least if we can't do anything, it is our duty to explain that to you, why we will do it or why can't we do it. At least we owe that to you.
Thank you, sir. What is your role in this department?
Janita is our Director of Inspection Division.
I see. So are you someone that I could contact if I'm getting nowhere again?
Oh, I think, I told you that you need to tell code compliance group. And I think Val, Betty, Vicky, and maybe Vincent, and then there are a couple of managers that we usually deal with on those kind of code compliance complaints. But we in inspection have a new construction responsibility. If a project has been permitted and construction is going on and there is an issue that comes up, we definitely, give our input or whatever technical feedback we have to provide to get those things corrected. But feel free to CC me if you want to engage us as inspection division. I'll be glad to be a part of your loop if you care to include us. But I think the right way is to write an email to that group. And if you want to, copy us, by all means do that.
Yeah, I
And
just
again,
also
that
put my
was the,
email in the chat box. Yep.
okay. So that was that address that you posted is the one that he's referring to?
Yeah, the email address and the website I posted earlier. That's the
Uh-huh.
the code compliance website. You can file a official complaint there, and then they will contact you after they log everything. Yep.
Okay, and then there's you. All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
and also my email address is provided in the chat box here.
All right.
If you do not see anything moving, feel free to contact me by that email address.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can make an example recently that there's a neighbor got impacted by a construction site, which is still ongoing. And unfortunately, the construction team was doing unpermitted work. Not, I mean, the work is not in the approved plan, so caused damage to the neighbor. And the neighbor filed a complaint, and then our inspection department immediately sent out an inspector to check the site and then shut the building construction site down. And we have them temporarily stabilize the site for now, and then have the construction team continue doing the revision before they can get approval to do the work in the area. And also they got the notice of violation. So city is working as much as we can to make sure the construction is done right and without any impact to our adjacent property residents. Yeah.
You know, Mr. Hokar, is this last name?
Yeah, that is correct.
Just a comment that one of the things I've noticed is that there is buck passing that happens, or at least in the 6 years that I dealt with the people behind me. That was one of the issues. No, it's not us, it's SDOT. And SDOT would say, no, it's not us, it's somebody else. If that at all can improve, that to fall within what you were describing as the goals, which sounded really good, I must say. I can only think that it can, what you're proposing would be the standard, can only happen if there's a tightening of responsibility taking and communication between departments. I realize it's a big city and there is a lot going on, and there's a huge hurry to develop. But what I've noticed is that the incidence is falling on people like me who've been paying taxes in Seattle for 50 years. And when it comes to getting, a problem addressed, like I said, the buck gets passed around. And when something takes as long as the project behind me did, it kind of falls through cracks. And the, property owners that have been around a long time are the ones that get, unless they know how to scream really well and have lawyers, we just get the consequences. So tightening of communication and responsibility taken between departments would be cool. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think your feedback is very valuable and very important for us. And just to clarify, I think code compliance is not directly under my responsibility, but we do participate with them, or my team members do participate with them. And we will definitely make sure, if you would be kind enough to just shoot an email to the code compliance group, and we can make sure that the proper attention is paid to your particular case. And we dig into it, and we will tell you why we cannot do it, are what we can do, and if we say that we can do it, then we should follow through with it.
Mm.
I think that's the minimum standard.
Mm. Yeah, I guess beyond something that you said there is very telling too. That if you can't do it, why can't you do it? A number of times is because there's just nothing there to protect the existing homeowner. Then that is just yet another area that could be improved upon. Again, as there is such a rush to develop so much more in the city. Again, it's the longtime residents, longtime taxpayers that need regulation filled in to protect us. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Timothy, for a wonderful presentation. I could just chime into the last half an hour of it, but I really appreciate you all responding to the questions from our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
You're
your
welcome,
joining.
Jitender.
Do we have any last minute question? Our Q&A session is scheduled to be finished at 12 p.m.
Yeah,
So
I just want to thank you for the references you gave me and your comment. Appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. I have my email address here, so by any chance you don't get any follow-up, feel free to shoot me an email, and I will do my best to assist you in file this complaint through our channel.
I did take a copy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I think we are at 12. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, team.
Thanks, pal.
So I'm gonna end the meeting and then yeah, and save the recording.
Sounds good. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Have a nice day, everybody. Bye bye.